The first thing my son-in-law saw on my front door was a laminated notice. Private residence. No occupancy without written permission from owner. The second thing he saw was the new deadbolt, the black camera over the porch light, and me standing behind the screen door with my hand still on the frame. Behind him sat a trailer full of boxes. His parents had brought furniture. He stared at the notice, then at me. "What is this?" "My answer," I said. His smile tightened. "You knew we were coming." "Yes. That is why I prepared." His mother, Diane, climbed out of the passenger side of the SUV and looked at my porch like she was already disappointed in it. His father, Frank, stood near the trailer with his arms folded. My daughter, Elena, stayed by the driveway, pale and quiet. Marcus pointed at the paper on the door. "We talked about this." "No," I said. "You talked." I listened. Diane said, "We drove 6 hours. That was a choice." Frank muttered, "This is ridiculous." I stepped fully outside and pulled the door shut behind me. "If you came to move into my house, turn around now. Nobody is unloading anything." Elena's voice came low and strained. "Dad, can we talk inside?" "No. Not until your husband stops pretending this was agreed." Marcus took one step up onto the porch. "You're embarrassing everybody. I'm stopping something before it gets expensive." Diane stared at the camera. "You're recording this?" "Yes." Marcus looked up at it too. That was when the anger sharpened. Men like him can handle refusal. What they hate is evidence. "If you've ever watched someone mistake your silence for weakness," I said, "then you know why I said nothing on the phone." He frowned. "What?" "Take your parents home, Marcus." He looked back toward the trailer, then toward Elena, calculating. "This isn't over. It should have been over before you left your driveway." That was the hook. That was the moment the title became real. My son-in-law had planned to move his parents into my new home, and he had not known that before he ever reached my road, I had already built the wall he was standing in front of. 3 weeks earlier, I had bought the house with 41 years of careful money. I retired at 68 after a career inspecting bridges for the state. I knew what stress looked like in steel. I knew what happened when people ignored warning signs because a structure looked fine from a distance. Hairline cracks never stay hairline if the pressure keeps building. Maybe that is why the little cedar house in the pines felt right to me the first time I saw it. It was simple, solid, quiet, 1 floor, 2 bedrooms, though the second was barely bigger than a study. No close neighbors, no apartment walls, no shared hallway. Just a place where I could hear myself think for the first time in years. I did not want luxury. I wanted quiet. The day I got the keys, I opened every window and let the house breathe. I carried in boxes one at a time. Books first, tools second, kitchen last. I made coffee in an old steel pot, sat on the back porch, and listened to wind move through the pines while dusk came down slow. Elena called just after sunset. "You there?" she asked. "I'm here." "How is it?" I looked out at the trees, like somebody finally turned the world down. She laughed softly. "That good?" "That good. I'm happy for you, Dad." I heard the warmth in her voice and the tiredness under it. Elena had always sounded brightest when she forgot to be careful. Marriage had taught her caution in places where there should have been ease. "You should come see it sometime," I said. "I will. Maybe after school starts." "How are things there?" A pause. "Busy," she said. "And Marcus?" "Busy too." I let the silence sit. I had learned years ago that pushing a worried child only makes them defend the thing worrying them. "Well," I said, "the guest room is small, so don't bring half your house." She laughed again. "Noted." We hung up. I remember smiling. I also remember thinking she sounded older than she should have. Marcus called the next afternoon. Not hello, not congratulations, not how are you settling in. "Dad," he said, using the title like a borrowed tool, "my parents are moving into your place for a while. Their lease situation blew up. They'll be there Saturday." I stood in my kitchen with a dish towel in one hand. "I'm sorry," I said. "What?" "It's temporary. A few months. Maybe less. I bought this house to live alone." He spoke right over that. "You've got space and they need somewhere stable. My house is not a solution you assigned to me." He sighed like I was being difficult on purpose. "Come on. Elena said you have 2 bedrooms." "I do. One to sleep in, one to leave empty. If you didn't want family around, maybe you shouldn't have moved somewhere useful." That sentence told me almost everything I needed to know. In Marcus's mind, ownership was negotiable if someone else had a problem. Need erased consent. My piece was simply unused square footage waiting to be claimed. I said nothing for a moment. Then he added, "If you don't like it, go back to the city for a while. I'll text you what time we arrive." He ended the call before I answered. I stood still and replayed every word. Then I took out a legal pad and wrote the conversation down line by line while it was fresh. Time, wording, tone, assumption, threat. If you've lived long enough, you know the first lie is usually not the loudest one. It is just the one that opens the door for every other lie that follows. My next call was to my insurance agent. "Simple question," I said. "If other people move into my owner-occupied house without being added to the policy, where does that leave me?" Her answer came fast. "Do not let them establish residence." That direct? Yes. No keys, no mail, no belongings inside, no overnight stays if you want it clean. I wrote while she spoke. Then I called a locksmith and asked for the first appointment the next morning. Then I called the county clerk and described, in careful general terms, what might happen if relatives attempted to move into a private residence without the owner's permission. The woman on the line said, "Post notice. Keep copies. Do not accept money. Do not let them unload a single box. Once property goes in, getting it out gets harder." I thanked her. She said, "People think family confusion is informal. The law usually disagrees." That evening I texted Elena. "Marcus told me his parents are coming Saturday to move into my house. I have not agreed. They do not have permission to live here." She called immediately. "Dad," she said, "can we not do this over text? We can do it by phone. The answer stays the same." She lowered her voice. "They're in a hard situation. So am I if your husband thinks my house belongs to his plans. That's not fair." "No," I said. "It isn't." Silence. "Elena," I said more gently. "Did he ask me first?" Another pause. Then a quiet, "No." That was enough. If you have ever tried to protect peace without sounding cruel, then you know how lonely a simple no can feel. "I love you," I said. "That is why I'm telling you now. Saturday is not going the way he thinks. Please don't make it worse," she whispered. That hurt, because only somebody under pressure says that to the person being pressured. "I won't," I said, "but I won't pretend this is normal." The locksmith came at 8 the next morning. New deadbolt, reinforced strike plate, keypad lock. He asked if there had been a break-in. "Not yet," I said. After he left, I went to an office supply store and bought weatherproof sleeves for notices, extra printer paper, and 2 small outdoor cameras with cloud storage. I did not buy them because I wanted drama. I bought them because men like Marcus survive on the gap between what happened and what they later say happened. Then I drafted a short letter and sent it by certified mail to Marcus and Elena together. No one except me had permission to occupy the property. No one had permission to store belongings there. No one had permission to receive mail there. No one had permission to remain overnight without my written consent. By Friday evening, the notice was posted. The locks were changed. The cameras were active. The insurance email was saved, and copies of everything sat in a folder on my kitchen table. If you already know the kind of man who arrives with a trailer before he arrives with honesty, then you know why I slept just fine that night. Saturday came cool and bright. I was up before sunrise. Coffee by 6, porch swept by 7, cameras checked by 8, even though I could see most of the drive from the kitchen window. At 9:42, Marcus's SUV came up the drive with a trailer behind it. Frank and Diane followed in a second car. Elena sat in the passenger seat beside Marcus, looking smaller than she should have. I was already on the porch when they stopped. Marcus stepped out smiling like we were meeting for a cookout. "Morning." "No," I said. His smile changed shape. "No, what?" "No, your parents are not moving in." Diane got out with an offended expression already in place. "Marcus told us this was settled." Marcus says many things before checking whether they are true. Frank shut his car door hard. "We gave notice where we were. That was a mistake." Elena walked up last. "Dad, please." I kept my eyes on Marcus. Nobody unloads anything. He looked at the posted notice, then at the new lock, then at me. "You changed the locks?" "Yes." "You posted a sign?" "Yes." "You made this official?" "It was always official. I documented it." That was the moment his face changed. Not because I had refused him, because I had refused him in a way he could not later rewrite. "This is humiliating," he said. "For whom? For all of us." "No. For the man who promised my house to other people." Diane folded her arms. "We are family." "You are my daughter's in-laws," I said. That is not the same thing as residents of my home. Frank snapped. Where are we supposed to go? That should have been discussed before anyone packed a trailer. Marcus lowered his voice and moved one step closer. You want to do this out here? Yes. You're making a scene. I'm preventing one. Then he saw the camera over the porch light. His eyes went up. His anger sharpened. You're recording? Yes. He laughed once. Unbelievable. I reached into my pocket and handed him the duplicate of the certified letter. You were notified in writing yesterday. He unfolded it and read enough to understand he had walked into a closed gate. You mailed this? Yes. You planned all this before we got here? Yes. That was the payoff of the title. He had planned their arrival. I had planned the refusal. The difference was that mine was legal, written, and already complete before his tires touched my road. Diane said, "This is cold." No, I told her. Cold would have been letting you unload and forcing you out later. I'm saving all of us more trouble. Frank muttered, You think you're better than people. No, I think my house belongs to me. Marcus turned to Elena. Say something. She looked from him to me. Dad, maybe just for a few weeks. I heard fear in her voice, not conviction. She was trying to buy peace with my boundary. I bought this house to be alone, I said. I already said no before you left home. I'm saying no again while you're standing in my yard. Marcus stepped onto the porch. If one day you need help, remember this. I met his eyes. If one box comes off that trailer, I call the sheriff and report attempted unlawful occupancy. That stopped everyone. Frank stared at me. Diane looked shocked. Elena closed her eyes for 1 second. Marcus said, You'd call the sheriff on family? On trespass. Yes. He breathed hard through his nose. Then suddenly he turned away. Get in the cars, he told his parents. Diane said, Marcus. Now. He went down the porch steps. Frank followed him. Diane hesitated, then went too. Elena stayed where she was. I didn't know he brought the trailer, she said quietly. I believed her. Go home, I told her, and call me when he's not in the room. Her eyes were wet. Please don't turn this into war. I didn't bring a trailer. She stared at me for a second, then walked away. Within 3 minutes, both cars were backing down the drive. The trailer never opened. Gravel spat under the tires. Dust hung in the pines long after they were gone. I went inside, sat at the kitchen table and wrote down everything. Arrival time, vehicles, words, body language, who spoke, who avoided eye contact. I downloaded the footage from both cameras and saved copies to my laptop and a cloud folder. At 7 that night, Marcus called. My parents are in a motel because of you. They are in a motel because of you. You embarrassed my wife. You put your wife in that driveway. You could have helped. I could have been used. He went quiet. Then he said, Elena thinks you overreacted. I wrote that down too, borrowing daughter's voice again. Did she say that? I asked. Or are you using her name because your own argument isn't enough? He did not answer right away. You know what your problem is? He said finally. I expect you're about to tell me. You act like nobody owes anybody anything. No, I said. I act like consent matters. He hung up. Elena called 20 minutes later from her car. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For today. For all of it. Where are his parents? A motel near the highway. Who's paying? A pause. Elena? Marcus put it on a card. That answer sat heavy in my kitchen. People who are financially stable do not move parents by force and cover motels on credit because a fallback plan failed. Are you all right? I asked. I'm tired. That wasn't my question. Silence. Then, no. I waited. He's furious, she said. Not yelling, just furious. What did he tell you before today? That you agreed they could stay for a while. That you just didn't want surprises. I closed my eyes once. He lied, I said. I know. Did you know they were losing their place? He said their landlord sold the property. Did you ever verify that? No. Shame had entered her voice now. Not because she had done something wrong, because trust looks embarrassing the moment deceit is exposed. Come see me next week, I said. Alone. I don't know if that's a good idea. Probably not for him. A small sound escaped her, almost a laugh. Then she said, Please don't try to turn me against my husband. That was not her language. That was borrowed phrasing, straight from a pressure-filled house. I won't turn you against anyone, I said. I'll just keep telling the truth. After we hung up, I sat on the back porch with a mug of tea gone cold in my hands. But once a man tries to move other people into your home by declaration, the question changes. It is no longer only what he wants. It becomes what he needs badly enough to behave that way. Monday morning, I got my first answer. I was on the phone with my bank updating beneficiary information tied to the sale of my old condo. The woman helping me confirmed my records and then, casually said, "We still have Elena and Marcus at the Maple Glen address." I sat up. "They still own their house?" "Yes, sir." I changed what I needed and ended the call. Then I wrote one sentence in my notebook. If his parents lost housing, why force mine instead of using his own? If you have ever been pressured through someone you love, then you know how quietly fear can move through a family before anyone names it. That afternoon, I called Elena's school under the harmless excuse of asking when teachers returned. The secretary told me Elena had been picking up extra curriculum work all summer. "Trying to stay busy?" I asked. She laughed. "Probably trying to catch up. She works harder than anyone." Pressure again. Not proof, but pressure. Maybe you think I should have shouted louder by then. At my age, I prefer a pad of paper, a quiet question, and one clean fact at a time. When family starts moving money in the dark, follow the numbers before you follow the speeches. On Tuesday, Marcus texted me, "We need to meet like adults." I looked at the screen, then replied, "Thursday, noon, Greenbrier Diner, public place, just you." He wrote back, "Elena will be there." Then no meeting I sent. 3 minutes later, fine. The Greenbrier sat beside the highway. Red vinyl booths, burnt coffee, pie in a glass case. I chose it because it had windows facing the parking lot and a manager old enough to understand why I asked for the booth near the register. Marcus arrived late and alone. "Thanks for coming," he said as he slid into the seat across from me. I almost didn't. We ordered coffee. He did not touch his. "My parents needed a few months," he said. "You made them feel unwanted. They were unwanted in my house. That is not the same thing as worthless." He leaned back. "You enjoy sounding like that. I enjoy saying exactly what I mean." His jaw tightened. "You've always had a problem with me. I had caution around you. Turns out caution was cheaper." He smiled without warmth. "This is why Elena feels trapped between us. There is no us. There is you trying to solve your problem with my property. That's not fair." "Then tell me why your parents can't live with you." He looked toward the window. "Our house isn't set up for it." "That is a phrase, not a reason." He rubbed his forehead. "My mother has trouble with stairs. My father and I don't live well under the same roof. Elena works. I work. Your place made sense." "There are pieces of truth in that," I said. "Now tell me the part you're hiding." His eyes came back to me. "I'm not hiding anything." "Then why ask my daughter about my will?" That hit him. His expression did not change much, but his shoulders did. "She mentioned estate planning," he said. "No, she said you asked questions." He took a breath. "People talk about those things. People with healthy finances usually do not ask them while trying to move relatives into the owner's house." He leaned forward. "You really think I'm after your money?" "No, I think you're under pressure. Everybody is under pressure. Not everybody brings a trailer." He pushed his cup aside. "My father made some mistakes." "With money?" Silence. "With your money?" Still silence. "With Elena's?" That got him. "Don't do that," he said. "Do what?" "Step into my marriage." I held his eyes. "My daughter stepped me into it when your plan reached my porch." He sat back, angry now. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Then explain it." He did not. Instead, he said, "You live like principle matters more than people." "No," I said. "I live like boundaries, keep honest people honest and expose dishonest ones fast." The waitress brought his sandwich. He never touched it. Then Marcus tried a softer voice. "Elena is under stress," he said. "This fight is hurting her. That stress started before my refusal." He said nothing. So I asked, "Is there debt she doesn't know about?" His face lifted fast. Small reaction, big answer. "You're unbelievable," he said. That wasn't a denial. He stood up halfway, then sat down when he noticed people nearby had gone quiet. "Keep out of my finances," he said. "You mean her finances." He stood again, grabbed his wallet, and said, loud enough for the counter to hear, "Enjoy dying alone in that house." Every head turned. I looked at him for a moment and said, "Now I know what kind of man speaks like that in public. Sit down if you want to fix anything. Leave if you want to prove me right." He left. The waitress came over a minute later. "You okay, hun?" "I'm fine." She glanced toward the parking lot. He doesn't look fine. No, I said. He doesn't. I paid for both coffees and drove home with the windows down. Some men reveal more in one failed meeting than in 10 peaceful visits. Marcus had told me 4 useful things without meaning to. His father had money trouble. Marcus was hiding the size of it. Elena was not fully informed. And my refusal had become dangerous to him, not merely inconvenient. If you've raised a child, you know the hardest thing is not seeing danger. It is seeing it before they do, and still understanding that pushing too hard can make them defend the very thing hurting them. That evening Elena called from her car. He says you accused him of stealing from me. No. I asked him whether he was hiding debt. She was quiet. Did he answer? She asked. Not clearly. He says you humiliated him. He humiliated himself. Dad. Elena. She sighed. Please stop making it sound simple. It is simple in one way. He lied about my consent. Everything else grows from there. She did not answer. Then I asked, has he ever asked you to sign financial papers you did not understand? A long pause. Yes, she said finally. A refinance packet last winter. Did you sign? Yes. Did you read it? He said it was routine. I looked out the window at the pines. There are moments when your body gets still before your mind has finished understanding why. Elena, I asked, what really happened to his parents' housing? I don't know the full story. Do you know any of it? Frank had some bad investments. That's all Marcus says. Does he ever tell you not to ask? Her voice dropped. He says asking only makes things worse. That line told me more about the marriage than any loan record could have. Come here Sunday, I said. Lunch. Just you. She did not answer for several seconds. Okay, she said at last. After we hung up, I called Martin Keene, the closing attorney who handled my house purchase, and asked for a referral. He gave me the name of an estate and property attorney in town named Nora Bell. I met Nora 2 days later in an office over a pharmacy. Gray hair, clear eyes, no wasted words. She listened while I laid out the sequence. The new house, the call, the trailer, the notice, the diner, the questions about my will, my notes, the camera footage, the text messages. When I finished, she said, "You've done well so far. That sounds like grading." It is. Most people wait until the boxes are inside. What else should I do? Keep the property owner occupied in record and reality. No mail. No overnight stays. No money from them. Save everything. And if he is already asking about inheritance while attempting occupancy, then shelter is not the whole story. What is the story? Control, she said. Access. Maybe leverage over your daughter through you. I leaned back in the chair. I don't want to overreact. Men your age in family disputes usually underreact because they want to stay decent, she said. Decency matters. So does timing. We updated my estate documents that afternoon. Nothing theatrical, just clean work, a trust arrangement, clear beneficiary language, occupancy protections. Enough to keep my house from ever becoming a prize someone could pressure me into sharing on the way to taking it. When I left Nora's office, I felt steadier, not angry, just clearer. That night, Elena texted me one word: Sunday. By then, the question was no longer whether Marcus was lying. The question was how much he was hiding, how much my daughter knew, and whether the truth could still reach her before the damage became permanent. I cooked chicken and potatoes Sunday because that was what Elena used to ask for after hard weeks in college. Some habits stay in the hands. She arrived early, carrying nothing but her purse and the face of someone who had not slept properly in a long time. The first thing she said was, "Please don't attack him. I invited you, not him." We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then she looked at the folder on the table. "What's in that?" "Questions," I said, "and some answers." She set her fork down. I knew this wasn't just lunch. "It is lunch," I said. "It's also your life." That made her flinch. "I need honesty now," I told her. "Has Marcus asked you to sign papers you did not fully understand?" She looked away. "Yes." I slid the first document across the table. A public filing Nora's office had pulled from the county records tied to Elena and Marcus's house. She read the first page, then the second. Then she went still. "This is our house," she said. "Yes." "This is a line of credit." "Yes." "How much?" $32,000. She looked at the signature block. "That's my name." "Yes." I thought this was a payment adjustment package. "When was this opened?" she asked. 7 months ago. She looked up slowly. "Why were you digging through my records?" "Because your husband tried to move his parents into my home and started asking about my will." I stopped assuming coincidence. She pushed the papers away from her. No. There's more. I don't want more. I know. I slid the next page across. A delinquency notice tied to the mortgage. Not a foreclosure yet, but close enough. Her face lost color. No, she said again. 3 missed payments, I told her quietly. That can't be right. We pay every month. Then ask where the money went. She stood up and walked to the sink, though there was nothing there to do. Say something, she whispered. I am trying not to say too much too fast. She turned around. Did you go looking because you hate him that much? No, I said. I went looking because I love you that much. That broke her. She put both hands over her mouth and cried in the silent way at first. All breath and no sound. Then the sound came too. I crossed the room, set the tissue box beside her, and waited. When she could sit again, I asked, what did he tell you about his parents' situation? That Frank made one bad investment. Anything else? He said moving them to your place would buy time. For what? She looked at the documents again. Her face changed. Not fully, but enough. There are more debts, she said. I think so. And he asked about your will because my house was already in his thinking. We spent the next hour going through everything I had. The first phone call, the certified letter, the camera stills of the trailer in my drive, the texts after, the diner meeting. My notes about his questions regarding my estate. I was careful. No embellishment, no speeches, just sequence. Elena kept returning to one point. Why wouldn't he tell me? She asked. Because truth limits options, I said. And some people only confess when every other path closes. That was one of the 2 moral knots in the whole story. A husband in trouble can ask for help. A dishonest husband first moves debt, then moves people, then moves language, until the lie sounds compassionate and the truth sounds cruel. Finally, she looked up and asked, what had you already done before they came? It was the right time to answer. I changed every lock, installed cameras, put my insurer on notice, sent written refusal by certified mail, met with a lawyer, updated my estate plan, prepared a file in case anyone tried to claim they had permission to be there. She stared at me. You expected all that? I expected pressure. I prepared for more. A broken little laugh came out of her. I told Marcus once, you never panic. I don't. I document. That almost made her smile. Then she asked the real question. Can we lose the house? Yes, I said. If nothing changes. Her hands began shaking again. What do I do? You protect yourself first. Pull your credit. Freeze new borrowing. Open an account he cannot touch. Gather every paper in the house. And talk to a lawyer who is yours. What about my marriage? That is a different question. She was quiet for a long time. Then she called Marcus from my kitchen. I did not put him on speaker. I heard only her side. What is the line of credit? Pause. What do you mean this isn't the moment? Longer pause. How many payments are behind? Silence while he talked. No, she said. Don't say Dad filled my head. I am looking at filings. Another long silence. Your father owed money? Then more silence. You used our house? Her face went hard in a way I had never seen. No, she said into the phone. You do not get to tell me you were protecting me from stress. Then she ended the call. He says he was trying to hold everything together, she said. That is what people say when they are moving collapse from one life into another. She sat back down and covered her eyes with one hand. I don't know what is real anymore, she whispered. If you have ever had to choose between being liked and being clear, then you know why I kept my voice level and the facts in order. Start with what can be printed, I said. Documents do not get embarrassed. People do. By the time she left that afternoon, she had copies of everything and a yellow legal pad of her own. At the door, she turned. Did you think I'd hate you for digging? I thought you might. I don't, she said. Not today. That night, Marcus called 11 times. I answered none of them. Finally, he texted, you had no right. I wrote back I had every right to refuse. He sent another message. You destroyed this family. I looked at the screen, then answered with the only sentence it deserved. No. I interrupted what was already destroying it. If you've stayed with me this far, then you know peace is not the absence of conflict. It is what remains after truth finishes speaking. By Monday afternoon, truth had begun speaking in rooms Marcus could no longer control. Elena met with her own attorney, a woman Nora recommended. By noon, Elena had frozen joint lines of credit, redirected her pay to a new account, and filed a demand for full debt disclosure. She texted me only 3 words afterward. You were right. I stared at that message for a long time and felt no satisfaction at all. Being right about rot in your child's life is a poor kind of victory. 2 hours later, she called. "There's more," she said. I sat on the back porch with my notebook open. "Tell me." "2 personal loans, one in Marcus's name, one tied to his father. He stopped paying the mortgage so he could keep those current." I looked out at the creek. There is always another beam behind the cracked wall. Did he admit it? Yes, but only after my lawyer laid out the banking records. For whom was he buying time? For everyone, apparently. His parents, himself, me, you. "That is not buying time," I said. "That is spending other people's lives." She laughed once through tears. "I know. What did your lawyer say?" "That I should not go back to the house alone if he's there." "Good. He wants to meet tonight. Says he can explain." "Of course he does. Explanations arrive when exit's close." She was quiet. "Should I go?" "That depends on what you need." "I need to hear whether he can tell the truth without a wall behind him." "Then meet him in public." She did. Later that night, she came to my house and sat at my kitchen table while rain tapped against the windows. "He cried," she said. "Did he tell the truth?" "Some of it." She wrapped both hands around the mug I had given her. "He said his father's debts were worse than he first told me. He said he kept thinking one more loan, one more delay, one more favor would solve it. Then your house became the answer in his head." "Cheap stability," I said. "Yes." "What about the questions about my will?" "He said he was trying to understand the future." "No," I said. "He was trying to price it." She looked up sharply, then nodded once. "He also admitted," she said, "that if his parents started getting mail at your address, it would help them establish residence." There it was. The part he never said to me out loud. "Did he admit that before or after your lawyer mentioned fraud exposure?" I asked. "After." "Of course." Elena stared into her tea. "I married someone I did not know." "No," I said. "You married someone who concealed himself well until pressure forced a choice between honesty and advantage. He chose advantage. That matters. Betrayal does not always mean you were foolish. Sometimes it just means the other person had practice." "What now?" she asked. "That is yours to answer." She sat with that for a while. Then, so softly I almost missed it, she said, "I think I'm done." I did not answer too fast. "With him?" I asked. "Yes." "Because of the debt?" "No." She wiped her eyes. "Because he was willing to use your home, my name, and even his parents like pieces on a board and call it love. That was the real break. Not the money, the method." She filed for legal separation the next morning. Marcus called me before breakfast. "You told her to leave me." "No," I said. "The records did that. She wouldn't have gone this far without you. She would have gone farther with you." He cursed at me. I let him. Then he lowered his voice. "My parents still need somewhere. Just for a month. We can work everything else out." Even then, with his marriage splitting open, he was still trying to salvage the original plan. "No," I said. "You're punishing innocent people. I'm refusing trespass. They're old. So am I. They have nowhere. They have a son." Silence. Then he said, "You think this makes you strong?" "No, it makes me unavailable." He hung up. That afternoon, Frank called for the first time in his own name. "This has gone too far," he said. "You loaded a trailer. We did what Marcus told us. And that comforts you?" He ignored that. "Elena is tearing the family apart." "No," I said. "She is uncovering where it was already broken." Diane got on the line next. "A decent man would have taken us in. A decent man would not have been sent to collect me through guilt." "We are not collectors." "Then stop sounding like some." She inhaled sharply. "After everything Marcus has done for Elena," I ended the call before she could finish. "Some conversations only exist to drag shame away from the right place." 10 days later, the full financial disclosure arrived. I sat with Nora in her office while Elena joined by video from her attorney's conference room. We went through records line by line. Personal loans, credit card cash advances, late mortgage notices, transfers to Frank, transfers back out, a whole private system of postponement built on borrowed time and borrowed trust. Then Nora tapped one page. "There," she said. "Read that." It was an unsent draft email Marcus had saved, apparently forgotten in a synced folder his attorney had to produce with the rest. Elena read aloud. "If we can get them into his place before he formalizes anything, we gain time and mailing stability. Once they're in, he won't want a scene." Nobody spoke for several seconds after that. There it was in black and white. Not compassion. Strategy. Elena closed her eyes. "I'm done," she said again, and this time there was iron in it. Marcus signed temporary separation terms within the week because the alternatives had finally narrowed. Their house would be listed. The remaining equity, after debts, would be supervised through court. Elena would not carry liability for every concealed move he had made if the paper trail held. It was not a perfect rescue. Real life rarely gives those. But it stopped the immediate collapse. Frank and Diane moved into a monthly rental on the far edge of the city. Nobody asked me for money, they knew better now. A month later, at the hearing on temporary financial orders, Marcus looked older, thinner, and stripped of the confidence he had once worn like cologne. When the judge asked direct questions, his answers grew shorter and shorter. Afterward, in the hallway, he approached me while Elena was speaking with her lawyer. "You won," he said. I looked at him for a long moment. "No. I kept what was mine." He stared at the floor. "I was trying to hold everything together. You were moving collapse from one person to another." He opened his mouth, then closed it. Finally, he said, "I did love her." "I believe you," I said. "You just loved control more when things got hard." That was the last honest sentence I had for him. By late October, my house in the Pines felt like mine again in a way it had not since the first week. The front notice came down. The cameras stayed. Not because I wanted to live in fear, but because caution once earned should not be thrown away just to prove optimism. I stacked firewood along the side wall, fixed a loose board on the porch, read in the evenings, learned the exact hour the light turned the creek silver. Elena rented a small apartment over a bakery, while the legal process finished. Some evenings she drove out and we ate soup on the porch with blankets over our knees. Some evenings she did not want to talk, and I respected that. Healing is not a speech. It is a chain of ordinary days that stop hurting in the same place. One Sunday, while we were washing dishes after dinner, she said, "I keep thinking about that trailer." "So do I. I think that was the day my marriage ended. I just didn't know it yet." "A lot ends before people name it," I said. She turned off the faucet. "Did you ever think about giving in, just to avoid all this?" "Yes." She looked surprised. "Really?" "Of course. I am your father. Half my instincts are about taking the pain myself and calling it a solution." "Then why didn't you?" "Because sometimes the pain you absorb does not disappear. It grows roots in your floorboards." She came around the counter and hugged me hard, the way she used to when she was small. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" "For asking you to make it worse by staying quiet. You were trying to survive the day you were in." The first frost came early that year. One morning in November, I stepped onto the porch with coffee in both hands and saw white along the grass. The pines stood black against a pale sky. The creek moved softly below the slope. For the first time since buying the house, I did not think about locks, notices, cameras, debts, lawyers, trailers, or courtrooms. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Elena. I signed the final papers. Another came right after. I kept my name. I smiled at that, not because a name fixes everything, but because sometimes the first act after betrayal is deciding what you refuse to carry any longer. I called her. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Sad," she said, "and lighter." "That sounds right." She laughed softly. "Can I come up this weekend?" "You never have to ask." "I know," she said. "I just like hearing you say it." When we hung up, I sat in the porch chair until the sun moved through the trees and laid gold across the yard. The house was quiet. Really quiet this time. My son-in-law had planned to move his parents into my new home. What he didn't know was that before he ever reached my driveway, I had already done the one thing men like him never plan for. I had decided my peace would no longer be negotiable. That changed everything. A few days later, Elena came out with fresh bread from the bakery under her apartment, and we ate thick slices with butter at my kitchen table. She told me about a professional course she might take in spring. I told her the back porch needed a second chair before winter ended. "For guests?" she asked. "For the right kind." She smiled into her coffee. The light through the window caught the steam from our mugs and the loose strand of hair she kept pushing behind one ear when she was thinking hard. Ordinary things. Precious because they were ordinary. Hard-won because they had almost been traded away for somebody else's emergency. Peace did not arrive like victory. It arrived like a house settling after a storm. Wood quiet again. Windows still. Every room returning to its size. Outside, the pines moved once in the wind and settled again. So did I.